Did you know that 70% of the most powerful and self-sufficient women don't realize the impact they have on the men around them? Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychologist, said, "What we most fear revealing about ourselves is often what makes us most magnetic." Today, I'm going to show you something that can completely change the way you see yourself. If you've ever wondered why some men get nervous in your presence, why others back away without explanation, or why you seem to attract only complicated relationships, this video is for you. What we often interpret as male rejection or lack of interest is actually pure intimidation. Jung explained that there is a feminine energy so authentic and powerful that it stirs both fascination and fear in a man. Fear of not measuring up, fear of having his weaknesses exposed, fear of losing the control he values so much. And you probably carry that energy without even noticing it. In the next few minutes, I will reveal 5 clear signs that you possess this intimidating presence that makes men retreat even as they want to get closer. It's not about being aggressive or threatening. It's about embodying an inner authenticity and strength that few can handle. If you stay until the end, you'll understand why your difficulty in relationships might actually be your greatest power. Get ready to discover truths that will transform your self-esteem and the way you relate to others, because believe me, you are far more powerful than you imagine. You don't need external validation to feel complete. The first sign that you intimidate men is what Jung would call female individuation. You don't constantly seek approval or external validation to feel good about yourself. And believe me, that deeply frightens most men. Think of the woman who doesn't check her phone every 5 minutes waiting for a reply, who doesn't change her plans because he hasn't confirmed the date, who doesn't need constant compliments to feel beautiful. That's you, and it's both rare and powerful. Jung said that most people live in psychological dependency, looking to others for what they can't find within themselves. But when a man meets a woman who is already whole, whose happiness comes from her own inner source, he encounters something that profoundly shakes his psyche. Consider this. How many times have you heard men complain that women are so needy or so dramatic? But when they meet you, a woman who isn't needy, who doesn't create drama, who has her own structured life, they become completely lost. They don't know how to deal with it. This happens because many men build their masculine identity around being needed. They feel important when they can rescue, protect, or complete someone. When you arrive as your own savior, they face an existential crisis. Have you noticed how some men get thrown off when you don't melt at every compliment? How they insist on paying the bill even when you make it clear you can pay your share. How they get confused when you don't cancel your commitments to see them. Jung explained that this occurs because your completeness awakens in them a sense of uselessness, not in a cruel way, but in the sense that they must reinvent themselves to stand by your side. They must offer more than the basics that worked with other women. And here's the paradox. The more you show you don't need them, the more they desire you, and the more insecure they feel. It's as though you're a mirror reflecting all the areas in their life that still need development. You have your own opinions and aren't afraid to voice them. The second sign of your intimidating nature is what Jung would call authentic expression of the anima. You not only have your own opinions, but you aren't afraid to speak them, even when they contradict what others expect. You're the kind of woman who, in a political discussion, won't pretend to agree just to avoid conflict, who will share her honest take on a movie, even if he loved it, who won't laugh at jokes. She doesn't find funny just to please. If that's you, you possess an authenticity that disarms many men. Jung observed that society conditions women to be pleasant above all, to agree, to soften, to avoid discomfort. But when a man meets a woman who breaks that mold, who stands firm and smart, he faces something that deeply challenges his conditioned expectations. Think of how often you've seen a man visibly uncomfortable because you expressed a strong opinion about something important to you. or how they sometimes try to soften your stance or quickly change the subject. This happens because your ability to hold and express your own thoughts awakens in them a mix of admiration and insecurity. Admiration because such authenticity is rare. Insecurity because it means you're not a blank page they can write their desires upon. Jung said that many men unconsciously seek partners who are extensions of themselves, who think like them, who validate their worldview, who won't intellectually challenge them. When you arrive with your own well-defined personality, values, and convictions, you shatter that comfort zone. Have you noticed how some men seem surprised when you show knowledge about topics they considered male territory? How they sometimes test your knowledge, as if they can't believe you really know what you're talking about. That's no coincidence. Your confident intelligence challenges their need to feel intellectually superior. They may admire smart women in theory, but in practice, when confronted with one, they often don't know how to react. Here's something fascinating. Jung observed that truly mature men are attracted by exactly this quality. They don't want a partner who echoes themselves. They want someone who challenges them, makes them grow, and brings fresh perspectives. Your ability to have and use your own voice isn't a flaw, it's a strength. It naturally filters out insecure men and attracts those mature enough to value an intellectually stimulating partner. If some feel intimidated, that says more about them than about you. You don't tolerate disrespect and set clear boundaries. The third sign of your intimidating power is what Jung would define as integrity of the self. You simply don't tolerate disrespect, and you set clear boundaries without drama or excessive explanations. And that is absolutely disconcerting for many men. You're the woman who, when someone crosses your line, doesn't pretend everything's fine, who won't settle for being second choice, who won't allow disrespectful behavior no matter who is at fault. If that's you, you possess a natural dignity that intimidates deeply. Jung observed that most people struggle to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. They give in, adapt, accept crumbs for fear of being alone. But when a man meets a woman who knows her worth and won't negotiate with it, he confronts something that upends his usual tactics. Think of how many times you've seen a man's surprised expression when you simply say, "That's not acceptable," or "I won't be treated that way." How they're genuinely shocked when you don't accept behaviors other women might tolerate. This happens because many men are used to women who give in, who over-explain, who justify themselves when they set a boundary. When you just say no and hold your ground without apology, you demonstrate self-respect they don't know how to navigate around. Jung said people with clear, healthy boundaries force others to grow emotionally. When you don't settle for less than you deserve, you automatically raise the standard for how you must be treated, and that scares men accustomed to doing the bare minimum. Have you noticed how some men test your limits right at the start? How they do little disrespectful things to see if you'll accept them, and how completely lost they are when you don't, when you simply walk away or calmly but firmly address the situation. That's because your self-valuation triggers in them an urgency to behave better. They sense, even unconsciously, that to be with you, they must bring their best, and not everyone is willing to make that effort. Jung explained that this happens because you represent something they recognize as valuable, but that also forces them out of their comfort zone. It's easier to be with someone who'll accept anything than with someone whose standards are high. And here's the beauty of it. Your refusal to accept crumbs not only protects your dignity, but also teaches the men around you how to treat you properly. You become an unconscious teacher of respect. Your ability to set boundaries isn't coldness, it's self-love in action. And mature men recognize it as a rare and precious quality, even if it initially intimidates them. You have a rich life and purposes beyond relationships. The fourth sign that reveals your intimidating nature is what Carl Jung would call full individuation. You have a rich life filled with passions, projects, and goals that extend far beyond romantic relationships. And for many men, that represents completely uncharted territory. Are you the kind of woman who lights up when talking about her personal projects? Who speaks with excitement about professional dreams, travel plans, hobbies, or causes close to her heart? Who never cancels an important commitment for a last-minute date? If so, you carry an existential completeness that leaves many men feeling lost. Let me share a true story. I once met a woman passionate about astronomy. She spent nights stargazing, joined study groups, and even traveled to remote locations for darker skies. When she described her discoveries, her eyes literally sparkled. Many men showed interest, but then backed away when they realized she wasn't emotionally available around the clock for them. Jung observed that most people in relationships tend to dissolve themselves, losing their individuality. But when a man meets a woman who keeps her own identity strong, with passions that don't necessarily include him, it awakens a complex mix of admiration and insecurity. Have you noticed how some men look unsettled when you mention weekend plans that don't involve them? Or make offhand remarks like, "You're so independent," as if that were a problem. Or even subtly compete with your passions for your attention. This happens because many men expect that when a woman shows interest, she'll reorganize her life around the relationship. When you keep living fully, pursuing your dreams and honoring your commitments, you shatter those expectations. Jung said that people with clear purposes and genuine passions radiate a magnetic yet intimidating energy. They don't need relationships to feel fulfilled. They want partnerships that enrich their already vibrant lives. Here's the fascinating truth. Having a rich life doesn't mean you don't value relationships. On the contrary, it means you know exactly the kind of partnership worth having. You're not looking for someone to fill your voids. You're open to someone who will grow alongside your dreams. Your full life isn't selfishness. It's an exemplar of living fully. And truly mature men feel inspired, not intimidated, by a woman who knows who she is and where she's going. You possess an intense, authentic emotional energy. The fifth and final sign of your intimidating power is what Jung might call full access to the emotional unconscious. You carry genuine emotional intensity and aren't afraid to feel or express it authentically. And for many men, that's like staring directly at the sun. Are you the kind of woman who, when she loves deeply? Who lets her emotions flow freely? Who doesn't hide her tears when something truly moves her, nor dampen her joy when she's genuinely happy? If so, you embody an emotional authenticity that many men simply don't know how to handle. Imagine a woman engrossed in a moving film. She allows the tears, talks about how the story touched her, reflects on connections in her own life. Meanwhile, the man beside her grows visibly uncomfortable, perhaps cracking a joke to break the mood or quickly changing the subject. Does this sound familiar? Jung explained that our culture, especially men, is conditioned to fear emotional intensity. They've learned that emotions are weak, vulnerability is dangerous, and depth is overwhelming. When they meet a woman who fully inhabits her emotional world, they encounter something that both fascinates and terrifies them. Have you noticed how some men become captivated when you speak about something that truly moves you, only to step back afterward as if they've seen something too powerful? Or remark, "You feel things so intensely," as though that were a flaw to fix? That happens because your capacity to feel deeply awakens in them both unconscious envy and a fear that they can never match your intensity. They recognize your vibrant emotional palette while they live in shades of gray. Jung taught that feminine emotional intensity is among the most transformative forces in the universe. When a woman allows her emotions to flow authentically, she becomes a gateway to dimensions of human experience many men don't even know exist. Your ability to cry at a film, to be moved by music, to be outraged by injustice, or to celebrate another's success, all reveals an inner richness few can access. And that intimidates them, because to be truly with you, they'd have to dare to feel so deeply themselves. Notice how emotionally mature men are drawn to this quality. They don't try to tone down your intensity. They feel inspired to connect more deeply with their own emotions. Your emotional intensity isn't too much. It's proof of living fully human. And only those men mature enough to honor it deserve the depth you offer. So there you have the 5 revealing signs that you unintentionally intimidate men. Your emotional independence, female individuation, your unafraid, authentic opinions, expression of the anima, your firm self-respect and clear boundaries, integrity of the self, your rich purpose-driven life, full individuation, your intense authentic emotional energy, emotional unconscious access. If some men feel intimidated by who you are, that doesn't mean you should dim your light. It means you've found your authentic power, and not everyone has the emotional maturity to match it. Jung said, "You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge." Now that you recognize your power, use it consciously, not to intimidate on purpose, but to attract those on your level of personal growth. Remember, you weren't born to be easy to handle. You were born to be authentic, powerful, and transformative. The right men won't want you to change. They'll grow to stand beside you. If this video resonated, tell me in the comments which sign you identify with most, and share your experience to help another woman awaken to her power. Know someone who needs to hear this? Send her this video. Let's build a network of women who celebrate strength, not weakness. Enjoyed the content? Subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a video on female empowerment and deep psychology. Together, we're stronger. Until next time, keep being exactly who you are. The world needs your authenticity,